Hi. Good day, America. My name is William Hunt. I'm from North Pole, Alaska. I am running for President of the United States because for 50 years I have been voting Republican Democrats, and we are taking away the future of our future generations. And we need to change that. So I decided to run for President of the United States in 2028 to convince America they should vote differently. A Republican or a Democrat should start voting for people who has a plan for America. Okay.
Well, thank William Hunt for sending that. Welcome to the Line Before podcast with Seth and Tracy. How are you doing tonight, Tracy?
Doing good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Blessed to be back. Glad to be back as well.
Yeah, it's been a little bit since me and you done one. We stay pretty busy. You got, gosh, you probably do two or three a week yourself. Sometimes you do two or three a day,
Yeah,
and and work on top of that. And I do this with you, and then we do the two girls one cut, and Joe and I are planning on bringing one back. So yeah, we stay pretty busy with this for sure.
yeah, man. We got some good shows coming up too, man. Possibly for the radio station. Just stay tuned, people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's Nighthawk Radio is coming. I promise you. I know I keep saying that every week, but It's 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 kind of a process to get going, and we're closer to today than we were yesterday. So yeah, man, it's gonna be really cool when it gets going.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for getting us to 200 followers on the Nighthawk Radio Facebook page.
Yeah,
Um, I've only been doing this for a month, man. It's amazing.
dude, I can't believe anybody wants to come and listen to anything we got to say.
Also,
Uh,
Two Girls One Cut just hit 1,000 views on the first episode on
the
Facebook.
very first episode, man, come on, really? It made me feel bad about myself. Tear down my Dixie Chicks poster and all kind of stuff.
I appreciate everybody that has watched it though, for
Yeah,
sure.
no kidding. Thank you so much. So, what was it last week or week before last? We were talking about people going missing in national
2 weeks
parks.
ago.
Yeah, and this is kind of not really a follow up, but it is a theory, and I think you even mentioned it on that show about feral people.
I did, yeah.
So we have got a few stories of these supposed feral people, uh, you know, in various places across the country, but this particular one is in the Great Smoky Mountains, and there's several missing persons cases in the Great Smoky Mountains that people have just disappeared, especially kids and children. So this is kind of these stories are kind of firsthand accounts as far as people who live around the area who know of these people and have seen or heard or lived there all their life and they know about these people. So, but I know Seth is especially kind of fascinated with the feral people. Um, and I mean, it is an interesting theory as far as people going missing in these national parks.
Yeah. Shout out
So
to the Supernatural Sleuth, man. He's the one that put me on to the Pharaoh people. He does a lot of TikToks on the Pharaoh people and especially in the Smoky Mountains, so it's very interesting for sure. And it is an
yeah,
interesting theory as well.
absolutely is. And everything's a theory until it's proven true. So it's like conspiracy. Conspiracy may sound crazy until you find out that it's true. So, but this one story starts out. It actually was 11 months ago. It does not give the author's name of this story, but it says, I live in the Great Smoky Mountains, and I know what snatches children. I'm on the North Carolina side of the Great Smoky Mountains. Lived here my entire life. All of us here know what's in these woods and mountains. Since the 1930s and 40s, there have been feral wild men living in these mountains. They are fast. They will snatch livestock and snatch children. The FBI knows. It's why they do not get involved. I've heard other stories that there was some attempt to kill these feral wild men, but they still exist, even today. And I'm not talking about some of the end of days extremists who took to the woods. I mean feral, completely wild men, their own language, living underground. We do not go into the woods at night. During the day, we make sure we stay on trails. Sometimes you will smell it, that putrid smell. At night, you will hear them holler, supposed inbreeds. It's not uncommon for people to go missing here. They are normally found, but you'd also be surprised at the number of children that have simply disappeared. The FBI has covered it up for years. I hear them from time to time, disturbing sounds. They live all up and down the mountains here and in national parks and forests. So, it goes on to say, I read an account of the first 411 book, maybe the second, where the woman was hitchhiking the Appalachian Trail, starting around Georgia-Tennessee line. She ended up being scared off the trek by what she thought were wild men. Pilates touched on these feral humans briefly, recounting this woman's story. For the life of me, I cannot remember her name. Um, so there's somebody who has lived in that area all their life, and you chalk it up to folklore. All of us that live either in the Smoky Mountains, we live in the Appalachian Mountains where Seth and I are at. Um, you hear these things that you don't whistle in the woods, you don't go out at night in the woods, you don't stare at the tree line at dawn or dusk. All these folklore things, but this person who lived there pretty much has known about these people all their life. It doesn't say if it's a woman or a man, but they um, and the old adage, "Do as the locals do." If the locals are telling you these things, then you probably ought to do what they're telling you because they live amongst these things, whatever they are, be a feral man, prehistoric man, Bigfoot, whatever. They've been around them all their life and they know how to live with them. And it's usually you don't hear of a local going missing in these woods. It's usually somebody from out of town who, I guess for lack of better words, don't really know the rules, you know. So, what's your take on that, Seth?
Well, you see, Expedition X actually did an episode on the Pharaoh people of the Smoky Mountains, and when they was interviewing witnesses, they always talked about a unique smell. So that makes that story more credible, in my opinion.
Well, and on top of that, if you listen to a lot of Bigfoot accounts, they talk about how you smell either rancid meat or wet dog or something of that of that nature with right before you see a Bigfoot or have a Bigfoot sighting, I guess. Um, so it could be one of the same.
Never know, man. And what I found interesting about that story as well was they was talking about they got their own language. You hear that a lot with like the whistling back and forth and stuff, which you hear with Bigfoot as well.
Right. I don't know if you've ever heard what's called the Sierra Sounds,
No, I've
and
not.
it's basically these guys up in the Sierra Nevadas would they had a hunting cabin. Well, it wasn't a cabin. It was basically just a camp, and they would go up, a couple times a year and do some hunting, and they would, occasionally see one of these. They I guess it would be Bigfoot. I don't know if it'd be more of a feral, but they went up there for years, and one of them took a recorder with them, and they wanted to record the sounds that these things made. And if you listen to them, there's at times they sound like almost like an ape type creature making like an ape type noise. But then again, if you listen to, they're almost forming phrases and sentences, but it sounds like if you ever watched, yeah, you're probably too young to remember this, but it was the they would have like kung fu theater, and it was one of those where it spoke English, but the mouse clearly wasn't speaking English, and it was that type of samurai sounds that were going back and forth across these woods that these guys they recorded, and it's called the Sierra Sounds. If you ever get a chance to listen to it, it's in one sense it's very fascinating to hear whatever these creatures are, or feral men or whatever, making these it would be I guess their own language. But on the other hand, beyond the fascination, it sounds eerily, I mean, creepy as can be. Cause the first time I listened to it, I was just stumbled across it, and I was sitting in a dark room, by myself, had my headphones on when I first heard it. I even sit back in my chair and was like, where the hell's the light? I got to turn the light on. Because it was like, wow, that's creepy. But then the more I listened to it, you could actually pick out, these things had, basically really their own language, but they were whistles and grunts and growls. But the crazy thing is when they started forming, you could tell it was a sentence to them, but to us it was just grunts and noises and somewhat audible mouth phrasing. So yeah, that's pretty weird. But if you take it past that, I've always said I'm a firm believer. If you've ever watched dogs, if a dog doesn't bark or growl, it still communicates with other dogs. And I think, I don't know this for sure, but this is just one of my theories, that a dog makes noises that humans can't hear. It's out of the realm of what we can hear, but they can hear it. And I
Like
think a lot of that
frequency.
communication goes back and forth with animals, period. Not just dogs, but with animals.
Yeah. They're known to like be able to hear like in different frequencies and stuff.
Yeah, in realms that we can't hear. So, but let's go on down to another one. Let's see. It says this is an excerpt from 1877. It says a party of gold miners traveling through the Globe Valley in Caldwell County, North Carolina, encountered what they described as wild man. Although they only got within 40 yards of the man, one miner claimed that this peculiar specimen of humanity appeared to be a giant, 6 foot 5 inches, with a funnel shaped head and 2 inch long dark hair covering his body. When he spotted the miners, he pounded on his chest before turning and bouncing off into the woods with the speed of a deer. The party tracked him with guns, drawn to a cave deep into the mountains, where they found bones of many animals scattered about. Um, Apparently, where this thing had been living for a while. That there you go. As far as I mean, would that be a wild man? Would that be a Bigfoot? Um, you know, so I mean, you never know. But this story here says it was just 20 days ago. It said, I'm a hunter. I like to hunt wild boar specifically. Though I have been deer hunting and have been known to get known to get a turkey for Thanksgiving, I mostly hunt boar. For those of you that don't know, boar are a big problem in the United States. A sow can have 2 litters a year, and it's not uncommon for a litter to consist of 10 or more pigs. Given that pigs eat anything and everything, it's not hard to see why the Department of Fish and Wildlife makes it legal to hunt them almost with no restrictions. In my state, it's illegal to hunt most large mammals with night vision scopes, with the exception of boar and coyote. I've been saving a year, mostly fun money, and it's hard to explain to your wife that the scope that costs literally twice as much as the rifle was um, the twice as much as the rifle that you mounted on it. Um, I took it to the range and sighted it in. There was an area where was peppered with boar activity, that I knew would be perfect for a night hunt. It was easily accessible with my truck and easy to find spots that I could set up in and overlooked a large, easy navigated clearing. The night started uneventfully, mostly me tinkering with the new toy, cycling through the settings. I was a little impatient. I'd spotted multiple deer, but they were out of season, and like I mentioned earlier, my current setup wasn't legal for deer. I moved to another spot I'd seen earlier that probably wasn't much better than my first, but it gave me something to do and a new angle to look around with my new scope. After an hour or so of glassing the area, it dawned on me this spot doesn't have much animal activity in it at all. No rabbits, no owls. The deer that I'd seen were hundreds of yards away. Was this pocket of land so dead at night, but lively during the day? I'd set up around 10 p.m., and it was about 2 a.m. when I started to think about packing up and maybe setting up a target before I left and taking some practice shots. I heard a crunch come from the direction I came from before. I panned my scope over and saw a silhouette of a small bear pushing through the brush. It's important to note that my scope isn't exactly night vision, it's thermal scope, kind of like black and white version of what you see in the Predator movies. I adjusted my range and zoomed in a little bit. I remembered jolting a little when I saw that it really wasn't a bear, it was a man. Because he was low and hunched over, I thought I was looking at a young bear. Is that a game warden? Could it be? I would have seen headlights coming up the road where I was perched and where I could have walked from. I was 30 miles away from anything on public land. I was about to call out when I adjusted my sights and noticed he was naked, no shoes, no pants, or anything. I remember being disturbed by his movements, like a squirrel or something, twitching and grabbing at the foliage, sniffing around and palming trees. Was that my tree? The only one I'd been leaning against earlier. The thought terrified me. Could he smell me? Then he did something I still have nightmares about today. He squatted and placed his hands in the dirt between his feet and stared straight up like a dog mid-howl. And I heard it, a voice coming from that direction, a very compelling female voice. Help, I'm lost. There was a long pause, but neither of us moved a muscle. The center of my sights was trained at the dirt in front of his feet. I couldn't bring myself to aim directly at another person. It went against everything I'd been taught about firearms. Were they lost? Was this guy something that had gone crazy out here? Why was his voice so feminine? Help, please, I can't walk, the voice called out. That's when I called bull snot. Not only could he walk, but when I first saw him, he was traversing the land with ease for a naked person. So good I mistaked him for a bear. It's a trap. This guy is trying to lure me to him with a damsel in distress routine. Luckily, the lack of activity before had caused me to pick up most of my gear. I think I may have left behind a hat and a sitting pad, but I didn't care. At this moment, I took my eyes off of him for a moment to get my pack on. I buckled the chest strap and scrambled for my rifle. To my horror, he was in the same position, but his face was staring in the direction, and I swear I saw a smile. The thermal scope has an effect that makes animals' eyes appear white. How the hell did he hear me and get up and hear me put my gear on? It was easily 150 yards away. I screamed at him at that direction. He stood right up. It hit me how tall and skinny he was. Easily 6 feet, very lean. He took a couple of long strides in my direction, and I instinctively sent a round sailing above his head to the tree line. He was freaky and he was freaky as hell, but hadn't really threatened me. What would I tell the cops? I was unwilling to unreadily shoot someone. He stopped dead in his tracks and hunched down on all fours. The next one will get you. Go away, he said on all fours, and this time I had my sights trained at the center of him. His eyes were just above the grass, like a large cat or something. I was trying to stop my trembling, and I knew that my voice had cracked a little the last warning. I was terrified. The standoff probably lasted a minute or two, maybe less, but it felt like forever. In an instant, he bolted towards the tree line opposite the road. So much for not being able to walk. I could barely keep him in my scope as he was moving so fast. He disappeared into the brush, and I sent another bullet sailing high in his direction. I racked another round and tried to pocket my mag and swap for a fresh one, but I dropped it and didn't bother looking for it. I wasn't far from my truck, and I wanted to get out of there. I could hear him in the distance, yelling in a weird sound that could have been a laugh or a cry. I scrambled up the trail and arrived at my truck breathless. I tossed my gear into the cab, kept the rifle in the passenger seat, and sped off. For the longest time, I told the story from a perspective of having spotted some deranged crackhead living off the land like some kind of caveman. I reported this to Fish and Wildlife, and all they did was scold me for hunting at night alone. Wow.
That's an interesting story, man. That
That
seems
is a
legit too.
listen. As someone who has been in the woods at night, um, I've hunted coyotes at night. I've hunted pigs at night. And listen, I've never been afraid in the woods. I've hunted since I was 9. I just turned 53. I have never been in the woods and got scared of anything. It's kind of hard to be scared when you have a gun in your hand. But that would creep me out to the point to where I don't know that I would go back in the woods. I have never, ever seen anything in the woods, heard anything in the woods, and I've come across bear and coyotes and things like that. But when this thing is trying to lure you towards it, what is its intentions?
It
Is it
looks at you like prey, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, are you looking at becoming food? Are you looking at becoming kidnapped and being a part of their whatever they got going on out there? Oh man, that would. Whew.
What about him reporting that and them just talking about him hunting at night alone, not even mentioning the feral people?
Well, if you remember when we did the 411 stories, how many times did the Fish and Game or the National Park Service just sweep it all under the rug? So that's kind of a common theme here. So yeah, man,
That'll send chills down your spine, stories like that.
that is creepy.
That was very creepy for sure, man.
But they're saying that these things are big. 6 foot 5, which I mean, somebody who's 6 foot 5 is that's very tall. That's a pretty good sized person. But it's not to me like Bigfoot big, astronomical big, like 9 foot, 10 foot tall. But regardless, I mean, if if this thing is running through the woods pretty much naked, barefooted at night, that means it has one, probably superior eyesight or superior smell, which you're getting into more of an animal type creature. Because humans only have, our eyes work out of, light refraction. So we can only see at night as much light as out. Where animals, their light refraction is much greater than what a human's is. So it takes very little light for them to be able to see at night.
It may be possible these feral people can see better than us because they're not watching TV screens and everything in the world.
Telephones.
Yeah, that's a good possibility.
It's a very good possibility. Very good possibility. So, hey man, I don't know. That's
Something's going on.
that is. I mean, I never really. I mean, I've always heard that there was feral people and things like that, but I didn't know it was anything like this. I had no idea. That's the first real story that I've ever really read as far as anything feral human like that. That's just man. That's almost skinwalker-ish type. Where skinwalkers can supposedly mock certain voices to get you either in a false sense of security, or they try to get you to open a door or try to get you to come to the woods. You'll hear, say, your wife's voice or your mom's voice, and your mom's been dead 10 years. That type thing. So, but that when it called out, said, "Help, I'm lost." I mean, that's creepy. In the middle of the woods at night.
You gotta rethink hunting at night now, Tracy.
Well, you may be right. I mean, usually when we go, it's in a group, and all of us have guns, and half of them are wild enough they wouldn't have fired a warning shot. So, but either way, I mean, that's creepy as all get out, man. Hmm. I don't know, brother. You've turned me on to something here.
Hey, shout out to Supernatural Sleuth, man.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check out your feral people stuff, man. That's fascinating.
He's got a Facebook page too. Everybody go like the Supernatural Sleuth on Facebook.
I mean, and speaking of Facebook, I mean, you can catch us on Nighthawk Radio Facebook page. Um, there's all kinds of stories on there, all kinds of shows. Seth and I and the girls, and uh,
Joe,
there's Joe. There's several. We have all kinds of different shows on there. So
5 minutes and a cup of Joe as well. Joseph Ashcraft Jr.
That's right. Who does a phenomenal job. So, yeah, man, that's creepy. The more I think about that, as many times as I've been out in the woods, usually when we hunt, when I hunt, it's dark when I go in, and it's dark when I come out. Um, I mean, and yeah, there's been a few times I've walked into the woods and be walking back to the truck with nothing but a flashlight, and you'll hear, a random crack of a branch, 40, 50 yards away from you. You kind of stop and you sit there a minute and think, man, what was that? But I've
Now you
never
gotta
been,
wonder: is somebody watching me? Is a feral
yeah,
person
because
watching me?
yeah, I've never been scared. It's just been more for curiosity. Like, is that a deer? Is that a bear? Is it, I've never been scared to the point where I'd be like, oh no, what the heck was that? But now I'm going to be looking over my shoulder, man.
You're gonna be wondering if a feral person's watching you now.
Man, yeah, it just ruined my hunt. Daggone it. But yeah, man, that's fascinating.
They got more stories too, don't they?
That's the ones I have there. Let me take a quick look and see. I know that you sent me one about. It's kind of scattered, so kind of bear with it. I got to kind of hunting because it'll talk about the story and then do something else. But the headline says naked cannibals stalking national park where boy vanished after stepping behind bush. This was October 2024. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park in the United States is notorious for a number of people who have vanished without a trace in the area, and rumors of wild people living in the woods. For centuries, tales have swirled about feral, wild people inhabiting a notorious national park. Dozens of sightings of these cannibals dwell in remote Appalachian wilderness. Alleged descendants of Civil War deserters living cut off from society. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is dense with trees, is where at least 5 individuals have mysteriously disappeared. The most infamous case involves Dennis Martin, a 6-year-old boy who vanished during a family camping trip in 1969 after momentarily stepping out of sight. The search for Dennis Martin grew so intense that it involved Green Berets, and yet these elite soldiers found no sign of the boy. However, they reported encounters, they reportedly encountered some of these feral beings, says Brian Jeffrey of the Black Mass Paranormal podcast. Jeffrey said this group of the feral people have been known to have cannibalistic tendencies, adding to the lore. Podcaster Donnie Lewis mentioned that on his channel, the first reports of any wild men in the U.S. Were around 1877 in western North Carolina. Some gold miners ran into one as they were going to work in the mines. We just talked about that. They followed it to a cave and found a whole bunch of bones and different types of animals. They don't say if there was any human bones, but that's what they found. Then, nearly 2 decades later, another wild man tale emerged from the same locale, wherein newspaper accounts surfaced about the capture of an ultimate ending with him in an intense asylum where he never disclosed his identity or origin. Brian continues, noting numerous accounts of individuals going wild in the Smoky Mountains. These were just people that went feral, living off the land. Some say they became cannibals. Legends of the Smoky Mountains feral folklore have only grown more common with time, as Brian details. Recently, there has been an increase of reports of these people, pointing out their alleged penchant for ambushing lone mountain hikers, particularly targeting the most valuable. Given the vast wilderness of the national park, it's not impossible for hikers to lose their bearings, yet the mystifying disappearances of the Smoky Mountains remain alarming. One such baffling case is that of Thelma Pauline Polly Melton, who vanished September 25, 1981, while hiking slightly ahead of her companions. Once she crossed over a hilltop, Polly was gone without a trace. Trini Gibson was just 16 when she mysteriously disappeared from the Great Smoky Mountains October 8, 1976. During a school field trip, Christopher Cessna, 45, also vanished in the area in 2011 while hiking alone. The following year, Derek Luking purchased an array of camping gear before embarking on a hike along the trail. A chilling note on his car's dashboard read, "Don't look for me." Wow. Brian shared that there are numerous accounts from individuals who claim to have seen hairy, naked men in the vicinity. He elaborated there was a couple that had parked their car and got out to go look at a waterfall. This waterfall, climbing up the side, they saw a man completely naked. They described him as hairier than average from the waist down, with his face covered in blood. According to the Eerie Tales, Brian mentioned that many of the sightings described the feral individuals as having peculiar sunken eyes, possibly due to inbreeding. He continued, there was another story of a little boy and his brother that came up to the mountains on a family vacation. They went out to one of the rivers to go fishing, and as they were walking up the trail, they saw again a naked man with white eyes, very deformed face and head. His arms were longer than normal, and again he was completely naked and hairier than normal from the waist down. Donnie Laws warned the residents always keep a close watch on their children in the parks, stating, "You do not let your children run off into the dark woods by themselves. That is a complete no-no. You don't have to meet a wild man or a Bigfoot. He could just meet a bear or a bobcat or any animal. So, I mean, there's several accounts right there of, you know, people, eyewitness accounts to these. I don't know if I want to call them feral people. I don't know what to call them, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm baffled.
Vampires, man.
Well, now you're just making stuff up.
No, I'm just being goofy, brother.
No, I mean, but I mean, you would think. Well, just take like the Great Smoky Mountains, especially the national park. It's over there where Tennessee and North Carolina come together, and that's a big attraction. To me, during tourist season, there's a lot of people around, and you would think there would be some more sightings or something. But if these things, look at Bigfoot. I mean, how long? Nobody knows how long that thing's been around, and in the scheme of things, yeah, there's a lot of, I guess, sightings, but really, there's not. If you think of
Mm.
the bigger picture. So, but I mean, I don't know, brother. You've turned me on to something now. I've got to research this a little more.
Hey, what's very interesting, actually, this has not got anything to do with the feral people. This has actually got to do with Bigfoot. There was an ape like 100,000 years ago. I cannot remember the name of it that went extinct. That was like 8 foot tall and 500, 600 pounds, something like that. That went extinct. So maybe they're not extinct, and maybe that's what Bigfoot is.
Well, I mean, you can be endangered to the point to where you're not quite extinct, and you could probably survive, I would say, and slowly multiply. I mean, we've had several animals in this country that have been on the verge of extinction. Look at the buffalo. At one time, they were in the millions here, and I think they got down to like 30,000.
That's
And if
crazy.
you think 30,000 in the
Mhm.
entire U.S. is like looking for a needle in a haystack. So, yeah, it's very possible something like that could be not extinct, but very endangered to the point to where there's just maybe a few left in less than the hundreds. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I could see where it could be very, very possible.
Ain't the Asian elephant on brink of going extinct right now? I
Yeah,
believe so.
yep, I believe it is. Well, look at the bald eagle. That one time the bald eagle was very, very, endangered. And now they're looking, I mean, they've made a major comeback. Alligators in Florida. They at one time was endangered. And now you can't throw a rock in any direction in Florida without hitting one.
Yeah, it's because people was hunting them like crazy, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, shoes, belts, and bags are something, I guess.
Gator boots.
Yeah, I've seen them. I've seen them. So, but yeah, man, thank you, appreciate you for bringing this to my attention. Now I would like to see, and I don't even know if there's been any research on it at all, but I would like to find a correlation between the missing 411 and possibly feral people.
um, it said briefly that that guy that was the author of Missing 411 briefly talked about feral people in
Right,
that one
right.
case.
And, I'm a huge fan of David Pilates, so I'm going to have to kind of track that down and see what his perspective is on the feral people in the missing in the national parks.
Yeah, that would be a supernatural sleuth question for Awakening Radio coming up here. So,
Yeah, it's a good, yeah, you're right. I'm always open to everybody's interpretation of what they're thinking, you know.
I mean, he
So,
gets sent hundreds of stories about the feral people a week, so he's pretty much an expert on the feral people at this point.
well, I would definitely that's probably going to be a future show then.
Yeah. And actually next week me and you can do a part two on the feral people.
Yeah, because I mean, people don't realize we put this together in less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So imagine if I spent some actual time looking it up. And the only reason we took that little of time is because we just got together that quick, But if we plan this thing and actually do some research on it, I'm sure we can find out a ton of information, or at least more stories.
Yes, sir.
So, but that's all I have for now, man. Now I'm curious. I'm gonna lose sleep tonight thinking where I need to go and what I need to
About
do
the
to find
feral
out more
people.
stuff. Yeah.
Uh, hey man, and you can't go hunting tonight now. So, damn.
Well, I'm telling you now, it'll have me looking over my shoulder if I go.
Just take somebody with you, like the game warden said.
Yeah, don't be hunting at night by yourself. Of course, I never go by myself at night just for the fact that I mean, what if you slip and fall and break a leg or something like that? But it wouldn't be because I was afraid of Bigfoot or something like that because I ain't seen anything at 12 gauge couldn't stop yet. So, but yeah, that's
Yes,
all I
sir, man.
got, man. I
Where can
appreciate
people
it.
find us at, Tracy?
Find us on Nighthawk Radio Facebook page. You can go to Seth Daily Podcast. That's where you find us on YouTube and Spotify, and Seth the Soil Guy on TikTok.
And yes, I
You,
do need to get that name changed. I've tried.
it's
TikTok, let me change my name to Seth Daily Podcast or Nighthawk
or
Radio One.
Nighthawk Radio, yeah, because eventually I think everything's going to be Nighthawk Radio once the station gets going. That way
Yeah,
it'll be one easy find everything.
yeah, we'll even have our YouTube page as well. We'll have our own Spotify, TikTok, everything.
Yeah, it just takes time. So we're just basically teasing you with the Facebook thing and the YouTube thing. So, but eventually it will be a station where you tune in every day or whenever your favorite show's on. You'll have a certain time, certain day to check it out.
Yes, sir. And
So
we'll
that's
actually
all I
have
got.
like the weather on there too, man. Uh Joseph Ashcraft Jr. will be doing the weather at night, and I don't know who's doing the weather during the day. We haven't
I can tell you
decided
what the
that
weather's been here today. Sucky.
yet. It's been like that here too, man.
My
Nothing
gosh,
but
it's
rain.
rained all day. And I mean, not hard rain, not easy rain, just a steady rain to where if you walk out in it, you're going to get soaked.
Yep.
And I did a couple of times.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. I appreciate everybody that's liked the Facebook page and followed as well. Thanks for 200 followers. Thanks for 1,000 views on Two Girls and One Cut. Everybody have a good night and God bless.